Hey guys, it's Alexander Williamson here with the secret history living inside of your aquarium. Today I'm going to show you how to prepare things for aquascaping. And by things I mean plants, and yourself, and the tools you should have. So any good aquascaper, the other thing is these are hermetically sealed cultured plants, and if you're doing a high-end aquascape, you may have customers who've never seen a snail before unless it's in the form of escargot. These displays can go for $5,000-$10,000 in a 20-gallon tank sometimes by renowned artists. And it's serious work, and there's proper tools for that work. And so in this video, I would like to show you, if you have a customer or a client, how you would go about that. So first you want to glove up to make sure that nothing is cross-contaminated, and then you want to take this ridiculous glove off, scoot all of these doodads aside. I have so many doodads. I mean, a lot of this is actually jewelry working stuff, but you want to scoot all of this aside. Some of these things are useful. Scissors, I can do without them. These are useful, the forceps and the tweezers. This, if you have sand, that's useful, or cracks for tucking stuff in, but you can just use the back of this. Scoot all that aside. The mat for cutting, you don't need it. Just get a piece of wood. Really, my real kit for when I do this is I have a colander to put the plants that have been cleaned. I have a Tupperware with some lukewarm water that has been dechlorinated. I have a serrated little knife. I have an X-Acto knife, or small blade. I should have a handle, but this is how I roll. I'm an artist by trade. I don't follow anybody's rules, not even my own. So, next, scissors. These are from Costco. It was a 3-pack for $14.99. And also super glue, which you can see that I have already, where are we? Glued moss to the super glue. Accidentally. Also, very important, your tunes and your beverage of choice. Mine being Dr. Pepper Cherry, which I have to go across town farther than for the plants for. And in Seattle, they put a new tax on all the beverages, and I won't get into that. I'm a liberal, but some taxes are enough, All right, let's get to this. Seriously, guys. That first intro was, I was being a smartass, so obviously. So, when you're aquascaping, getting things ready for the scape, you've seen me put stuff in the tanks before and whatnot. What you're really doing is you take these little sealed containers, and they've got labels. I always save the labels. I stick them somewhere, like just even on the edge of the table for now. And then I like to keep them next to the tanks because, not everybody can remember that this is Rotala species Vietnam. So then you can just cut off the lid. La la la. Take a look at your plant. Some plants are too delicate and you don't want to pull them out like this, but the vast majority will do okay. And in this specific company's AFA, which is ADA, or Amano, the guy who started this as a popular mainstream art form of the natural aquarium, it may look like a teeny little cup, but you actually have a ton of plant material in here. And sometimes it kind of gets bundled up and root bound and stuff like that. But I actually look for the containers with a little bit of root boundness, but the roots are going to be all white still. If they start turning brown or black or red or any other color, unless that species has that quality, don't get it. Here's another one. The soil or the auger that it is grown in, it is a mineral and fertilizer-rich mix. What's kind of nice about this one is, I don't know if it's just for peace of mind or what, but this Rotala is going to grow fairly tall, and then it has a pink crown on it. And so this I'm thinking of for the background of the tank, which is right behind me back over there, which is all washed out. But you guys know what tank that is if you've watched my channel. If you haven't, you're going to have to go back and watch. And so the nice thing that they've done here is you can separate it. And I just use my hands. You don't need fancy tools. But sometimes plants have weird forks when they've been culture grown. And it's kind of up to you to decide how big of a clump you want to use. So you can use all the way down to one little root ball, or you can use, or even this small, or you can just say, you know what, this is close enough. I want some body to it. And then you'll notice that with this brand, I'm washing it off. Let's turn it here. Washing it off, and what comes off is just they do a good job of this, and it's just like an auger based gelatin, which the plants are then grown in, and then in the cup they continue to grow. But yeah, so this is related to kind of Rotala wallachia. It has kind of a furry look, and then it has pink and dark green in the top with some tan. So I'm excited about that one. But you can see how much of the plant I still have here to untangle. I mean, there's pieces like this, like some of them have some character, and you know, nature does a little bit of randomness. But what this company does, which is nice, and the cultures like that you get at Petco or whatever, those are all fine. This stuff isn't going to hurt your animals, your inverts or your other animals. But I always take these and I place them while they're wet in over here in a colander. And I like the colander just because if it drips, it can drip onto a table or onto like a rag or whatever. But the cool thing about this, if you can see it, is that this company, the auger is actually kind of a blackish gray, and so it can go, you can see it wash off. So rather than just being clear like Petco and other PetSmart, they like Top Fin, they have just brown or whatever color the nutrients. This is actually a dark color, and that is really helpful because sometimes you can't tell if you're throwing away roots or if you're throwing away a dead section or what's going on. And if you're in a hurry, you can always just, you kind of massage it, and you can do it without even looking, really. You can just feel, and you're gently just getting rid of that gelatin. And if there's a little bit left, that's fine. Let me turn you guys so you can see into the bowl a little bit better. But basically you just soak it like this, and then you just kind of tease out whatever shape it has grown into. And in this case, it has appeared that the roots have gotten bound back into the plant. And in that case, you don't necessarily, with most species, want to tear roots. And so you'll either want a sharp blade like a knife or some scissors. Scissors also still cause a little bit of tearing because that motion is a pinch that cuts it. I prefer just a little teeny blade, and I just kind of cut whatever's holding it onto there. And then you read the root, and you can see there's roots here, there's roots down here. And so this is off on its own with a root system down here, but this will be planted in this direction if you want those roots to continue. And if you do so, that will then grow upwards from the line that you planted in rather than plugs if you were to plant like this. Now, another good tip is while you're at this stage, if you have stone or wood that you're working with, you can use the other thing in my kit is cyanoacrylate or crazy glue. It's all the same, crazy glue, super glue, all the names they have for it. It's the same thing. But it's fine once it's cured in water. And even before it's cured, it's okay. Like I use it when I cut myself and stuff like that. I'm also crazy. I threw out the rule book, right guys? And the other thing I do kind of like is having a mat to cut onto. That's helpful. But let me talk about the next thing. I don't want to bore you. Don't want to soak this too long either. Now that all of the auger, agar, Sammy agar, however you want to pronounce it. I'm not going to judge you. Please don't judge me. Let me get you back up at my face. My face. Don't forget my face. And we're crooked. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about another species. So let's go with a species that maybe doesn't have roots. So we're gonna Ludwigia glandulosa. Now that can have roots, but it's another one that I have grown without the roots being in the water. Now it's important if you've got root tabs or eco-complete or whatever you're using as your substrate. Most plants absorb through their rhizomes or their roots 400 to 400% more nutrition than from any other source. Now this one has actually clear gelatin or agar because they want you to be able to make out be able to split up and make out the different clusters, because their root systems, when they have the auger out, let me show you something real quick. So they use a container like this. It's almost like a petri dish. They fill these up themselves, and then they, with a sterile condition, they insert that into, here, or they put roots or a culture of the plant in the center. Now, culture is a clipping. Some are grown from seed. I like Ludwigia glandulosa because when it's young, you can kind of pass it off as nana petite, or petite nana, that is. It's a nice little dark flower that can get kind of a purplish hue to it, or not flower, but plant that can get a nice hue to it. I just like the stuff, and then you can always trim it back, or you can let it grow taller. But this stuff I've found isn't quite as crucial as some other plants. So like Java fern, Java moss, Anubias, all those don't need they don't need their roots in the substrate. So these plants, there's some in between where they're going to do better with CO2 in their roots in the substrate, but they don't need it. And this one I have grown successfully for a while without needing it, as long as you put some liquid ferts or some ferts that dissolve into the water in there. Those fertilizers should do just fine. So I like to group my plants according to species, obviously, and then within that, when you get a good chunk of it, like here's a nice sized piece of the stuff, and you can see there's still auger on it. Let me get that off. Hager, the terrible, the horrible. I don't know. Somebody tell me what the name of that comic strip is. But you can really fake someone out for way cheaper than like a Nana Petite. You're going to be paying like $30 or $40 for a chunk like this if you go to a store. This stuff I got at a store. I got at Aquariums, and they're an ADA style shop. And generally, I wouldn't be willing to pay $10.99 for these, but they were 35% off essentially with a discount I had, plus my local club, plus a sale they have going right now. Didn't compound all that or anything, so I'm not saying go over there right now, right this second. But if you live in Seattle, check them out this week. They have a sale going all week. He did a project for Amazon, and he ordered in a lot of plants, and that's always a cool place for inspiration. Not always the cheapest to buy, but he is Steve. There is a very well-versed guy in the art and the craft. He's lived in Japan and studied, and he's been to Germany. He's been to Peru. So he knows quite a bit about his plants and also frogs, I've learned today. And I'm coming up with a new video on African clawed frogs soon that might blow your mind. So we're going to do that. We're going to do shrimp videos. There's not time with me yakking on, yak, don't talk back, to go into each of these species and their traits. So I'm going to get them all planted in the aquarium, and we'll kind of I'll do a shot like once I get it all set up, and then we'll do a shot in like 6 months or something like that. I haven't decided if I'm doing artificial CO2. I've got root tabs. They sell CO2 tabs. I've never used those. I honestly don't know how those are. The other thing you're trying to get off of these plants when you're working on them in the bowl is, if you look there's going to be, well, the auger, and then there's going to be loose leaves. And some of those, if you're really dedicated, you can replant if they have stem butts. But I'm not dedicated, as you can tell. And by the way, when I scooted everything aside, I don't mean to be disrespectful. It is an art. It's just like bonsai trees. I just inherited some equipment that was used back in the 40s for trimming bonsai stuff. And there is an art to creating, special tools. And they have a role when you know how to use them. But at home in your aquarium, when you have lots of time and you're not doing things down to the micro level for like a competition, because there's two kinds of scapes in my mind at the pro level, and that is in this category, and that is the kind that are not functional. They are just beautiful, and you're trimming the moss, you're trimming it by the millimeter each day, and you've got 1,000 strands of moss, and you're cutting each one to make sure it's right. And then you've got the kind that is a functional tank with fish live in, and you let grow out. And that can be dense or sparsely populated by fish and plants, either way, and hardscape. But I just wanted to say that, like, I have working tanks because I'm not a millionaire. I don't even have ADA tanks. I don't have rimless tanks. I don't have do aqua tanks. Or due aqua. I don't know how to say it. Shows what I know, right? I didn't know that this was called aquascaping until 20 years after I started doing it as a kid. So, there's a lot of technology that's useful. Don't skimp when it comes to CO2. If you don't want snails, don't skimp when it comes to cultures or your local fish club. But I just want to show you in a moment here how much material we got out of 2 cups. So this is 2 little cups, this size. They're like urine sample size. And they are... We've got that much... Oh, geez, I just ruined my whole sorting system. You've got good system, right? It can be easily ruined. But you've got a good amount of material here to work with. And that's enough for the tank and the other tank. So in any case, guys, I hope you learned a little bit of something here. And that's to unlearn a little bit. Because if you're doing competitions in professional level, yes, please watch that. All there is to know, all the inline filters and stuff. Let me walk with you real quick and show you. You guys know me from my channel, and I just want to show you that I'm not blowing off steam. I'll say that. I am blowing off steam. I'm not blowing steam up anywhere. But basically, my tanks tend to look like this. Wild, lots of species in here. We've got the Pelvicochromis, Tenacious or Tenatus, Nigerian red. We've got little killifish. And then moving on in the rest of the house, we have my favorite masterpiece that I've been working on for years. And that's my wife, Lara. Say hi.
Hello. Hi.
And she wants to tell you guys something right now on video because she's so happy about this YouTube thing that I've been doing. And that's that we're getting a 6-foot long tank.
Psych.
Okay, we'll talk about it later. So in this tank, treating it for ick, malachite green. It's a crazy thing. Invite your friends over. Bring a blacklight. And then this is the scape that I'm preparing the plants for. So you can see it got wires coming out. I got a filter. I do want to hide the filter. It looks ugly. But in here, you can probably make out the kinds. Here's some crypts. Here was dwarf hairgrass. All of this half, that's 2 cups of dwarf hairgrass. And that will grow in, especially with CO2 and ferts, that will grow in the rest of the tank. But I don't want to overpower the rocks, so everything I have is either low growing or it's going to be high contrast behind them. Then down here, we've just got a wild tank of shrimp and extra plants. So thanks for joining me, guys. I hope you learned a little something and had a little bit of fun. This is kind of a lighthearted video. And I will show you the aquascape in the future. But I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you enjoy your friends, your family, your time with your hobby, if it relaxes you, if it makes you feel better, and your Dr. Pepper if you're like me, which I can't get enough of. So, Dr. Pepper, call me up. I missed my last payment from you guys. So, all right, guys. Until next time, swim on. Take care.